So I was able to actually get it finished. Had a lot of vibration, couldn't turn past 580 RPM, and part of that's my problem, or my fault I should say, but it became my problem. When I glued these up, I didn't use cauls to keep the boards nice and level on the top or bottom of the blank. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two was after it was cured up, I didn't run it through the planer or sand a flat spot on it. I just put it on the chuck as it was, and there was differences between the boards of a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch in places where they had shifted during the glue up. So when I mounted it to the chuck jaws didn't have anything flat to register against. So this was actually cocked just ever so slightly, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, cocked to one side a little bit, but that's enough to create a lot of vibration. And I thought, it's okay, I can turn that away. Doesn't work that way when it's not setting straight on the chuck. I could actually see this wobbling as it was turning. I had a little bit of this going on. So a lot of vibration. Had to turn pretty low speed, but we got our outer profile done. Wasn't originally going to go with that, but I kind of like that shape. So we turned that. We made our foot here. We made our recess here. And we still had vibration when we reverse mount on the chuck because since this was wobbling, this recess is not perfectly flat. So it's set on the chuck slightly cockeyed, which is why, again, I couldn't turn it past 580 RPM. So slow going, rough turning, you saw it. I started with a 3/8 bowl gouge with a 40-degree grind on it. It's not a true 40-40, it's just a 40 with a swept back grind. Ended up going to my 3/8 with a 50-degree bevel, which helped some, but I had a lot of ripples. I had a lot of places where I couldn't complete a cut. I had to stop, come back in, do like a pool cut and a shear scrape. It was really a mess, and but we got there. I sanded this down from 60 grit to get rid of my tool marks, which were quite bad. All the way up to 600 grit, I used a drill and a sanding pad. In between each grit, I would take the pad or the sandpaper off the pad, and I would sand by hand with the grain. And then I'd take my air compressor and blow the dust out, because this Padauk, even this Purpleheart, it wants to stain it, because Purpleheart's kind of open grain. That dust gets in there, you get some of the Purpleheart dust into the Padauk, and it starts to kind of look like a little bit of a muted mess. So clean it out as best you can in between grits. I went from 60 to 600 doing that each time, and then once I was done dry sanding, I come back with 600 grit sandpaper and walnut oil and wet sanded this. So you can wet sand it at the higher grit, seems like you don't get quite the slurry and you don't see the staining. I tried wet sanding it from the very beginning and created quite a slurry with staining. Purpleheart was making the Padauk look darker, and the Padauk was leaving orange in the Purpleheart. So I decided to dry sand, blow it out with compressed air in between. Seemed to work pretty well. Takes a little longer, but you know, so would have if I'd put maple in with this like I originally intended to. And thank God I remembered that Padauk will stain maple quite bad, and it's a pain to get it cleaned up. So better that we went this way. I was going for a 10-inch bowl, and this is 10 inches almost exactly. I mean, it is almost dead on 10 inches. So kind of worked out and surprised considering it wasn't ever exactly in round. So a lot of scraping, a lot of sanding, but we're here. The only thing that it needs now is it needs this bottom kind of finessed a little bit. It doesn't want to set perfectly flat. It kind of rocks just slightly. So I'm going to put it in my Longworth chuck, and I may or may not include that in the video, I don't know. But I'm going to maybe just try to sand this flat. I really don't want to turn it. I don't want to take any more material away from this than I already have. But we'll see. I might have to scrape it and just try to get that flat. So other than that, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm pleased with the shape. It's glass smooth. It looks nice. You can still see some of the curl. There's still curl in that Purpleheart that shows up there. Certainly the light hits it. I just really love the contrast of the colors here. So first time that I've done a bowl lamination like this with hardwood. I've done ones with 2x4s before. Same thing, got to look out for. Make sure your boards are nice and even. If they're not, plane them, sand them, whatever, so that they register flat on your chuck or your faceplate. And that's going to save you a huge headache down the line. So I'm going to get this on my Longworth chuck. I'm going to try to sand this flat, I guess, or try to get it better. And then I'll go ahead and finish this area here with the recess, and it'll be done. I'll try to get some still images up at the end of the video. Maybe get some close-ups of it. All right. Thanks for watching.